Hello, everyone. I just wanted to take a few minutes to discuss the various professional growth opportunities that residential faculty have here at the Maricopa County Community College District. We're fortunate as residential faculty to have a number of opportunities to earn salary advancement or to be funded for a variety of professional growth activities. So just to give you an overview, the district-wide FPG committee consists of two subcommittees, one of which focuses on travel and summer projects, and the other focusing on salary advancement and sabbaticals. Travel and summer projects are things like getting funding in order to travel to a conference, and it'll pay for hotel, airfare, ground transportation, registration, that kind of thing. Summer projects are special opportunities to get funding in order to complete certain kinds of activities over the summer months. Those are not the focus, however, of this particular video. This video is primarily focused on salary advancement and sabbaticals as opportunities for FPG at Maricopa. So let's go ahead and take a moment just to give an overview of how the salary advancement works according to the salary schedule. So your initial placement on the salary schedule has to do with two different factors, one of which is your step, that is your number of years of experience, and the horizontal aspect is your academic degree. So the number of graduate level course hours that you have earned. And so, if you start with a master's degree, that will put you somewhere on the horizontal side of things. And if you have a PhD, then you start essentially maxed out. Now, there's an exception to that. You are actually, as PhD faculty or doctorate holding faculty of any kind, you do now have the opportunity to earn an additional 9 credit hours of FPG over the first 3 years that that's available. The faculty professional growth opportunities that you have can impact your salary by moving you horizontally according to the number of additional credit hours that you earn. Or if you're not doing academic work to earn credit hours directly, then you can actually participate in certain kinds of non-academic activities to earn an equivalent number of credit hours based on the calculations that are provided. So when it comes to, just to nutshell it, when it comes to academic credit hours earned for graduate level coursework or even certain cases justifiable undergraduate coursework, you will earn the number of credit hours that you earned from taking that course. So if you take a graduate level course and you pay the tuition for it and you pass it, you send your transcripts to the district office and you have the academic advancement form completed and approved, then annually when the review takes place, which is in September, then your salary will be adjusted and you would actually increase 3 credit hours horizontally for the 3 credit hour course that you took. And keep in mind that one salary advancement credit hour is equivalent to an additional, as of today, $163.31 on your salary, annual salary. So 1 credit hour gets you about $160 additionally to your salary per year for the rest of your career. Now, non-academic work is also something that you can get credit for. However, non-academic work is not calculated according to credit hours immediately. Every hour that you spend on some sort of non-academic faculty professional growth activity, such as attending a conference or an online workshop or even an in-person workshop or a pre-approved event in Maricopa, such as the annual Student Success Conference, all of those count as clock hours. And for most professional growth activities, the equivalent is 18 clock hours equals 1 credit hour. So if, let's say, you were to go to a 3-day conference and you pay the registration yourself, this is something important to keep in mind, is that if you use FPG travel funding to pay for your registration, then you are not able to apply for salary advancement for the activity, because that would be like double dipping essentially. But if you decide to pay the registration yourself and you attend a conference, let's say it's a 3-day conference, then what will happen is, if you wanted to, you could apply for 6 clock hours for each one of those 3 conference days. That's the standard for a conference day. So that would be 3 days, 6 clock hours per day would be 18 clock hours total. Now, once you submitted that form and got it approved, then that would earn you 18 clock hours of non-academic faculty professional growth credit, which, again, when the annual review takes place, would earn you the equivalent of 1 credit hour of horizontal advancement. So let's briefly talk about academic advancement first. So specifically, some of the details there. So these are individual courses that you might take. And again, it could be graduate level, but there's also a number of times, oftentimes people will see some value in taking courses that are undergraduate or even 100-level courses, right? It is possible. However, if you're going to be doing any kind of undergraduate coursework, it's strongly recommended that you do get pre-approval before you take the class and pay the tuition and everything. In fact, you can always get pre-approval for any academic work that you plan to do if you just want to make sure. So again, 1 academic credit hour equals 1 credit hour of advancement. So if you take a graduate level or postgraduate level, 4 credit hour course, then that would equal 4 credit hours of advancement. There is a timeline here, so it has to be your academic, the form that you submit for academic advancement must be received by your faculty professional growth representative within 2 years from the end date of the course. And as goes for any kind of application when it comes to FPG, in order for it to be even potentially looked at, let's say with this year's advancement, then you have to get it in, again, to your faculty professional growth representative by the last Friday in August, because it's basically right there at the beginning of September that they do the review to see who's earned horizontal advancement, and they go through the process of working with HR to adjust your pay. One thing with academic advancement that's very important is that you must have your official transcripts sent to the district office, not through your advancement rep, straight to the district office by September 15th. So this is the form for academic advancement. Currently, the process still requires submission of a PDF. You can find the forms on the employee portal. A couple of things that I would note. First of all, the difference between graduate, upper division, program of study, and other. So if you are interested in actually taking an entire degree program, let's say that you have a master's degree presently, but you have been accepted into a doctoral program, you would, if you haven't started it yet, or if you just barely started it and you have a bunch of classes still to take, program of study is the easiest way to go, because then you just include your acceptance letter, and then you include essentially the schedule of the courses that you will be taking. And then we can get all of that approved at once using just one form. And then you just you complete the program of study as you said that you did, and you get those credits, and you just have to send your transcripts as you complete classes. So that is kind of like the ideal thing if you're going to be doing a massive program. However, on the other hand, if you just take individual courses, then you would just select the graduate right there, for example. And then, of course, if there's something else going on there, sabbatical change, professional leave of absence, those are kind of like relatively rare things that happen, but this would be the same form that you would use for that stuff. One other thing that I would like to state here, two things. One other thing is, keep in mind that whatever the course title is, if you're asking for pre-approval by way of a program of study, whatever the course title and course number are, they need to match exactly what's on your transcript. So if you get pre-approval to take a course, then you have to make sure that that is in fact the course that you are going to take, because if you end up taking a different course, then you might have to resubmit an application. Non-academic salary advancement is a little bit more complicated, because not only are there a number of different ways that you can earn it, but it's also like how many clock hours equal a credit hour changes depending on what kind of activity it is. Now, I would say that most often the non-academic work that you will be doing, there are a ton of pre-approved internal events in Maricopa. So these are events that are hosted by Maricopa in some way or another. So it could be a CTL event, it could be one of the various kind of initiatives across the district that has actually gone through the process. The organizers of the event have gone through the process to basically say to the FPG committee, we want to hold this event and we would like Maricopa faculty to be able to get FPG for it. The thing with Maricopa events is that if there is an event hosted by Maricopa and it is not approved, pre-approved for FPG, then you cannot, as Maricopa faculty, apply for FPG for participating. Most event organizers across Maricopa are aware of this, and there are tons of pre-approved events. Upcoming pre-approved events are currently listed on the FPG website, so you can kind of see what's going on. But also, as you get emails announcing different opportunities and stuff like that across the district, keep an eye on those emails, because usually, I mean, they're expected to place in there somewhere something that says approved for 5.25 clock hours of faculty professional growth or something along those lines. So that tells you that it is a pre-approved event. Now, if it's an external activity, let's say that you go to a conference somewhere and you pay the registration yourself, or you just participate in a virtual conference or a webinar, you go to a workshop somewhere, just some kind of web-based learning, whatever. There's all kinds of different things that would kind of count as a conference or workshop or seminar. And again, these would be things that wouldn't earn you academic credit, like it's not something that would go on a transcript, but nonetheless, you can see how these events would impact you, like attending a discipline-specific conference, or attending a workshop about online learning, or how to design online courses, or something like that. I mean, those are just a couple of examples. So these kinds of activities, and again, remember, if you are going to be paying a registration fee using travel funding, you can't apply for a salary advancement. But let's say you pay the registration yourself, or even if it's free, and you attend it, you just make sure that you get some sort of proof of attendance, and also some sort of documentation that gives like the title of the event and the dates of the event, the times, what the agenda was like, maybe some statement about how many hours it took, because you're going to need that stuff as documentation to back up whatever you fill in the form. And as it says there, a badge or a screenshot of an email saying thank you for attending, or course completion, something like that. It just makes it possible for us to verify that yes, you were there and that is in fact the event, and that's how many hours it's worth. Remember, for most events, it's 18 clock hours equals 1 credit hour. Now, there are some situations like work experience or other professional experience, and I think these are purposefully vague, especially the last one, just to make it possible for people to get some credit. So if you get some work experience over the summer and it's related to the discipline you teach, and you feel like it helped you grow professionally and you can justify that, then you might consider a way to do that. Now, there's a way to apply to get a salary advancement for it. There's a whole process for that, and some kind of like complicated or potentially more complicated ways in which you have to justify and itemize and verify your the number of clock hours it is, and all those kinds of things. And that's all on the website. There's a lot of stuff on the website, as you'll probably see. You also have the opportunity to earn non-academic horizontal advancement with a travel experience. So if it's traveling for study, or if you travel and there are parts of the travel that you do, maybe it was just a personal trip that you took, but some of the activities that you participated in during that travel, you can see is actually contributing to your professional growth, as faculty. Can justify that and you can document that, then that's also a way that you can apply. So keep in mind one really important detail as well. You remember how we said the academic advancement, you got 2 years. After that you finish the course, you have 2 years to submit transcripts and get your form submitted. That way you can still, you're eligible to earn that FPG with academic advancement for up to 2 years. However, non-academic advancement, you have to get the form submitted to your rep within 90 days of the end of the event. If it goes past that window, then it is unfortunately no longer eligible for FPG. The last thing to say is, just like with academic advancement, if you are hoping to get your clock hours calculated along with everything else on this round, then you need to make sure that that is submitted by the last Friday in August every year. I will start by saying that as of the recording of this video, most non-academic advancement forms should be submitted using a dynamic form, which is a link that is provided to you by your FPG rep that you click on, and then you fill out essentially this form, but in a browser tab, and you have the opportunity to upload supporting documentation. That's something that we're just now rolling out. However, there are still going to be some situations in which you'll need to provide a PDF form emailed to your rep, and that is going to be travel experience, work experience, and other professional activity. So again, everything under workshops, conferences, web-based learning, option A, option B, option C, and the pre-approved events. If you do any of this stuff right here, then you're going to fill out the dynamic form. But if you're doing travel experience, work experience, or other professional activity, then you need to send a PDF. Now, when you do send a PDF, make sure that it is a single PDF that contains the filled out form along with any supporting documentation that you're providing. And those are the things that we talked about: proof of attendance, an agenda that shows, how many hours it was, basic information about the event, who was the host, when was it, what's the title of it, those kinds of things. All of that stuff, screenshot from emails, screenshots from websites are fine, but you're going to bundle all that into a single PDF and then send that to your representative within 90 days. The first set of things, like I said, are going to be filled out in the dynamic form. Before I move on, however, I want to kind of explain the difference between option A, option B, and option C, and then of course the pre-approved event. We'll just get the pre-approved events out of the way. That's a Maricopa hosted event that has gone through the process of getting it pre-approved with the FPG committee to make it eligible automatically for FPG. Now that doesn't mean that you don't have to send a form. You attend it, that's fine. They keep track of your attendance and they send your proof of attendance on their own. But you still need to send a form and then some sort of documentation like screenshot from the email that says the name of the event, how many hours it was pre-approved for, the date of the event, that kind of stuff. So usually it's an email from the organizer that was a promotional email that has that information. Sometimes they'll send you afterwards an email that says thank you for attending and here's the information you need for FPG. But that's a pre-approved event, and again, specifically those are Maricopa hosted events that were pre-approved for FPG. Now, if it's an external event or an external activity of some sort, options A through C are the ones you have to choose from. Option A is the kind of standard for a full day conference. Okay, so if you attend a one-day conference, you don't have to itemize the number of hours that you spend doing it. You know, you just show it to us and we see it and we say, oh, okay, well, the conference started at 8:30 a.m., ended at 3:30 p.m. We assume that there are going to be breaks in there, whatever. You get full like 6 clock hours. If that seems reasonable to you for your conference attendance, and again, if it were 3 days, then you would ask for 18 clock hours, 2 days, 12 clock hours. Then that's the easiest thing to do for those kinds of full day events. Now, if you are attending something that is especially intensive, let's say it's a conference that has programming from 8 in the morning until 11 o'clock at night, and you've got working dinner, and you've got like workshops in the evening, and you're attending all this stuff, and you're like, it's way more than 6 hours. I was actually participating in professional growth activities for 12 hours that day. You have to do some additional justification. So you can choose option B in that case, and that means that there's an additional form that you have to include, and that additional form essentially asks you to itemize by the hour all of the different things that you were doing during the day, just to show us, that this is what it is. And then of course you'd have to provide some sort of documentation like an agenda or a program from the event itself to demonstrate that that was in fact what the conference was like. Right? And again, so you put all your justification in, along with your form. When you submit the dynamic form, there's going to be the option to upload documents. And then you upload those PDFs that show the program and whatever proof of attendance. And then your representative reviews it, reaches back out to you if they feel like something needs to be changed or something's missing. But eventually, hopefully it gets sent up the approval chain. And then option C specifically has to do with, like it says, web-based learning. So sometimes people get a little bit confused about like options A, B, and C because these days so much stuff is web-based. So people will attend a web-based conference, for example. So should you apply for 6 hours for that, or should you apply for, should you do option A for 6 hours, or should you do option C? It can get a little bit confusing. I can't really get into the nitty-gritty in this video because there are so many different ways. It kind of totally depends on the specific thing that you're doing. But my thinking typically is option C is for things like webinars and stuff like that could be just maybe a 2-hour webinar one day, or maybe a webinar series that's over 3 or 4 days, and you just add up all those hours and put them in there. But there is a little bit of flexibility, in terms of like whether it should be A or C. Maybe flexibility is not the word. Maybe it's more like overlap. It could very well be that either one of them would work depending on, what the event is like. Like if you attended a full day online conference, I think that you could probably either do A, B, or C depending on how many hours you're asking for and what it's like. So again, with specific questions on that stuff, that's when you reach out to your representative. So just to kind of go over real quick one last time, the submission process is different between dynamic form, or is different depending on what you're doing. So the dynamic form is for conferences, workshops, webinars, pre-approved eternal events, like that kind of stuff that is pretty straightforward. Any academic advancement forms have to be sent as a PDF. And then the non-academic advancement for travel experience, work experience, or other professional activity, that has to be also sent as a single PDF. Eventually, we might have them all dynamic forms, but for now, this is it. And finally, I'd like to talk a little bit about sabbaticals. This is an opportunity for faculty in their 7th year, and as it says here, the projects are designed to engage faculty in study of some sort, research, travel, work experience. It could be all kinds of different things. But the idea is that you would take a semester or 2 semesters off, getting your salary for the first semester. If you take 2 semesters, then the second semester you get 75% of your salary. But you take that time off in order to do some kind of activity that is going to meaningfully contribute to your professional growth, but then also upon returning, contribute to the institution in some way. So people will take these sabbatical leaves to do field research or to look into designing new approaches toward student engagement or all kinds of different things. I mean, there have been many different types of sabbatical. One of the most common ones is taking a semester or two off to finish a doctoral degree, to complete a dissertation, for example. But that's just one example. Now, the website has all the information that you need about the process for applying. Now, the process for putting the sabbatical proposal together can be a little bit daunting because it is a document that is going to need to provide quite a bit of information in terms of a detailed timeline, very clear objectives and goals, and also there's a section for pre-planning which is supposed to contain some sort of documented evidence that you've been doing relevant things in the lead up to even submitting a proposal. So it's something that you want to think about at least 6 months, if not a year, in advance of the deadline for the proposal. And then, of course, the sabbatical itself would take place the following year after you have been approved. So if you're interested or if you have any questions about potential sabbatical ideas, you should reach out to your representative as early as you can, really, to get the conversation started. I do encourage you to check out the link here to the Estrella Mountain Community College Library because they have actually put up a bunch of previous sabbaticals that you can review. So again, if you have any questions about that, feel free to reach out to your representative early and often, because the conversation about how to put together a really good sabbatical proposal is something that you would want to get started early.